Especially even more now. Not the window. I'm trying to heat.
It's been doing it now.
It's getting longer and longer.
Yeah, I know. I watched it
longer.
get longer and longer. I was like, oh,
So
if you
hi.
have an early version, I'm sorry. Okay.
There are some statements on the back couple of pages you might want to take a look at before the meeting gets started, because they're very passionate statements. We don't often get multiple passionate statements just from me sending out the newsletters.
I did too. Yes, 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 me too.
That's a criteria here.
Seriously, where did this come from?
It's ridiculous.
I knew it was supposed to cool off, but it was not. How this was coming. It doesn't seem to be sticking.
Well, that's good.
Yeah. Well, it's 50 degrees.
Cold enough.
Yeah. It stays at 40.
I was gonna say it was 39 when I pulled in. So
Yes.
it's gone down a little bit.
Yeah.
Oh,
no.
It might snow there. Maybe.
Maybe she can just pull up to you.
Oh, yes. Yes.
Could do that.
Thanks for that idea.
The first time we were there was really nice.
I've already been nice to you once.
I know. I made lunch and company. Yeah. I like this idea.
We did 3 days.
Do you like Evergreen? Overall. I know our patrons like you. Everybody's done it. I know it's good. Maybe that's if we can bring up some time and they can work on it. Yes. And that better. Okay, I think it's time. I'll call to the meeting to order. Can I get an approval of the agenda?
I move we approve the agenda as presented.
For a second? A second. All those in favor?
Aye.
Okay.
Aye.
All right, can we get approval of the minutes from December?
The date needs to be changed, I will say.
Okay, all right,
It was December 11th, I
okay,
believe.
all right, yeah. December 11th. Okay, with that, the approval to accept the minutes other than the date. All
I'll second.
those in favor?
Aye.
Okay. And then let's do the report.
All right. And we have the coverage of our representation. Okay. All right, January is a whole lot of number crunching for me. I had my annual slip ups, people found mistakes I made, so fortunately we managed to get everything sorted out and put back in right order. But the answer is we're doing more and more and more work. Remote circulation and intersystem transit, so I'm going to talk about more on the next slide because they went sky high comparatively. But with the 7 new libraries we added last year, our collection size rose noticeably, as well as the resident patient population. Interestingly, while we did see an overall increase in circulation, it's not nearly as meteoric, but that does tie in with our expectations on a national level that circulation is falling at about 2 to 3% a year when it comes to physical circulation. So the fact that we had an uptick is actually quite nice. I went back and looked. From when I started tracking top resource sharing libraries in 2014, Oregon County did 9,873 remote circulations that year. That put them at the top of the list by a nice margin. This year, 18 libraries were above that.
Wow.
So that's the difference that just 4 years has made in the amount of work we're doing. So if your transit staff say they're getting tired, there's a reason. This was, road circulation was up almost 23% over the last year, and transit processing was over 20%. So it was 949,000 and some odd transits. So there's a lot of material to move around. One of the reasons we kept our couriers very busy. So, we are moving forward with all of our migrations. Should be setting up something with Fort Mill soon to get their configuration meeting going. Their materials were ordered a few weeks back during the last pool. I haven't heard that they've arrived yet, so I need to reach out to Kirsten and see where she is with that. The others are trucking along. They're all very anxious to see when the next time is we're going to put together cataloging parties, particularly the 2 libraries that haven't had any yet. But with things like this, we're going to wait until it's a little less likely to look like that.
It's spending the night on it.
Ridiculous.
I
Yeah,
can walk
it's
on
the
that.
biggest
thing I've ever
It's
seen.
just no crazy. So, because of the, because of the weather and they haven't I haven't been able to get out to Iceland, we may push back their go live a little bit. I would like to, really like to get them up and running soon. But we really need to make sure that their collection is actually ready to go when they do that. Working with them again on training this week. Development projects. 2017, 2018. Now keep in mind, because we are, this project is in quite a state of flux right now. The consultant is doing an amazing job of keeping some of these projects going, but some of these, as you'll see, there's just no change because his job is to keep the projects going, not start new ones. So the approved email and printing options was supposed to have been done already. But then during final testing, a major flaw was discovered, so they went back to the drawing board, and they're now retesting. We're actually talking about bringing, did you get a chance to grab that code? Okay, so we're gonna try testing it here in Indiana as well, to see if it's, see how close it is. But that will add like call numbers, your local call numbers, to basket pick lists. So you could go ahead then and finally be able to take that list to the shelf, find things, rather than just having that list of titles. List of titles is great, but it's kind of nice to know where they are too. So that's something that everybody's very excited about seeing come. It's a major project of Pines, actually. Masslink is just peripherally involved. Number one, we'll talk about the results on the next page. The test notification stuff, apparently in final testing, should be released in March. So at least that's when they're targeting release. Update the whole notifications. I couldn't find anything in any of my notes about that particular one, but we have a meeting with Masslink and the Massive Development Group on Thursday, so we may have more news on that after that. Editable patron notes. There was talk about the specs being forthcoming on that. I haven't seen those yet. Spine label printing. Again, this is one that's been in the works for a while and been tested and fixed and tested some more and fixed some more. And we're hoping for a March release on this one. And when that happens, it will probably be a workshop because it's still not going to be super easy to configure and it's going to take some fiddling at the individual workstation level even. But once it's in place, then people will finally be able to use regular sheets of labels and just print off their spine labels on demand. So if you want them one at a time and come out one at a time and just move along the sheet, or then go to item status and say, give me these 20 and then print wherever you tell it to start on the page. It's something that a lot of people have missed from their old ILSs. Delineate issuance, I have no updates on that one, and the geographic distance project, that will probably one of the projects for the new program administrator. Long-term acquisitions got super expensive, super fast. Sprint Zero, Masslink ended up kicking in a whole lot more money than they intended initially, just to get Sprint Zero going. Sprint One was still short quite a bit of funding at our last meeting. We were going to try, the consultant was going to try to push through and see if he could find a couple more partners so that we at least get Sprint 1 done. Sprints 2 through 4, one of them by itself is 6 figures. So there's a lot of discussion going on right now in the international community at large, trying to figure out who's got that kind of money and is that the direction they're actually willing to take it. So everybody who's using acquisitions is looking forward to the development because there's a lot of new improvements to the workflows and things that need to happen to really make it everything we want it to be, but funding is going to continue to be an issue. So, anybody who's sitting on, you know, like a major grant or something like that, and you're sitting thinking, I don't know, I'm gonna spend this on, talk to me after the meeting. I know some other consortia would be happy to talk to you as well. No updates on the did you need. Hopeless Holds has been funded. What Hopeless Holds, the Hopeless Holds project will do is it will look for things like, and I just ran into a case with this last week. Well, actually, several of you may have seen it on the listserv. An item that a patron put on hold was marked missing because the library couldn't find it. It was a sole holding record, and the patron couldn't figure out why their hold wasn't being filled. So what Hopeless Holds will do is when something like that happens, there will be a, depending on the type of reason an item is no longer available, it will either auto cancel and send the patron a notice that we weren't able to obtain this for you, or you can choose as a staff member to force that. Because the original idea was just to always have to do that, but then some libraries wanted time to process things like missing so that they had a chance to go do shelf checks a couple of times before they sent the patron that cancellation notice. But, excuse me, it is something that will be a really nice enhancement, and it's been funded, fully funded, and development has begun. So we should see that, not with the next upgrade because that's coming in March, but potentially this fall, maybe next winter. Depends on how long the development testing phases take. And I don't have any updates. I couldn't find any updates on the updating bulk notification method. That's where if you change somebody's phone number or email address, it gives you the option to change it on existing holders. Right now, the old information is retained on old holders. Speaking of the initiative, I do have the early drafts of the contracts ready for our legal person to take a look at. The development group, as it exists now, took an advisory approval vote at their last meeting. They aren't agency heads; they've been appointed, so they couldn't actually say yay or nay at that meeting. But they did vote as a community to say that they were okay with the idea of bringing Project Indiana at the rates we discussed. So I'm in the process of trying to put together stuff to send out to the various agency heads. The new position for the 50% development initiative, 50% Evergreen, has been written up and sent over to our HR division for creation, posting, and all of that fun stuff. And once that's up, we'll start recruiting. Special project participation, this is stuff I get questions about a lot, so I decided I should probably start putting this into all of my reports to the various groups that I answer to. For projects that are opt-in, we have transiting media, 63 libraries currently participate in that. 21 libraries are shipping music CDs. Part of that is just many fewer libraries even have music CD collections. I've gotten the impression from more than one that if they had them, they go ahead and share them, they don't have them anymore. So they're actually, the amount of use is pretty respectable when you consider the amount of content available. On the fine free front, we have 7 libraries that are fine free across their entire agencies, 5 that are bookmobile only, and then 1 that is juvenile fine free. We did have 3 that were juvenile fine free, and the other 2 transitioned to being fine free back at the beginning of the year. And then the auto renewal number is updated as of 11 o'clock this morning.
There's another one.
Oh, okay. Well, I tried. So there are 35 libraries now doing the auto renewal. And I haven't heard anything but happiness. We even got unsolicited praise at the state library about it. So patrons are contacting us, well, this is wonderful.
That never happens.
Usually when they're reaching out to us,
It's not good.
Something that they like. So, but this particular slide, when I sent out the query yesterday about what would you like to see at conference, the stuff on this slide is what I've gotten multiple requests for so far. So I'm gonna try to line up some of the libraries that are starting these programs, see if we can have panel discussions. Acquisitions, we spent 2.5, 3 weeks working with Scienceville and Baker and Taylor. Sarah was very patient, frequently as the go-between. She's their acquisition specialist at Scienceville. But we tried to get it all ironed out. They had some specializations they needed for their library. I think they're all done and ready to go now. So, and you're in closeout seeing with everybody that was already active on acquisitions. So. I've been in talks with a couple of other libraries that are exploring it. So it does continue to be a low adoption project, but the libraries that are using it are doing great. And very impressed with how much effort and time they're willing to put into it to try to make sure that it's going the way they want it to. It took me 2 months, but I did finally get a contract in place for the conference. So we will be meeting on the 29th, working on putting together the presentations. Is there anything that anyone on this committee would particularly like? It'd be really helpful if someone, in the group would like to work on it. Otherwise, I threw the doors wide open yesterday to see if I could find stuff, and now I'm going to track down people and try to do some of the stuff I'm getting requests for. But is there anything any of you would particularly like to? I know not everyone likes to speak publicly, but the Evergreen Indiana Conference was one of the most positive experiences I think I've ever had as far as people being like, I'm just glad to be here. We'll keep thinking about it. I say, I want to be able to put together more than a single session all day so that people have an opportunity to make some choices and find stuff that's relevant for them regardless of their workflow. Wendy.
Yeah, this was me. So we put out the bid for the courier contract because 4 years with now expires in June 30th. So we put that out at the end of last year, and we got 3 bids that were very competitive amongst themselves, but the prices are significantly higher. And we've been talking internally about what we can do, how we can help mitigate the shock, how we can do anything we can to help with that. And we've actually just talked to the board this last Friday about it to give them a heads up that this is going to be something that's going to affect libraries statewide when we can finally get the prices negotiated and announce them. So we are still in negotiations, so we expect to have something in the next couple of weeks, but it's just morning, not great.
Wendy, as a small library, I really appreciate the Info Express and the way that's all handled. And it seems to be going pretty smooth.
Mm-hmm.
I would be willing as a small library to pay more for this service if they would step up a little more, like on the days we expected them, we're 3 days a week. And for sometimes twice in a month, they only come 2 times. And they don't call or tell anybody, and we have no idea whether they're coming, are they gonna come tomorrow then instead, or they're just not gonna show up. We have they give us no information whatsoever. So, I wouldn't mind spending more money to keep the service going and keep it going smoothly, but I think they would have to step up and be a little more considerate.
Very good sense. Yeah. That goes with what we're thinking as well, that if the price is going to be this much more than the number of issues we see should be significantly reduced. So Yeah. Sorry.
No, it's okay.
And now it's snowing, so nothing but bad news.
All right, numbers. Inside your packet, you have 2018 closing balance sheet and the current 2019. We did finish out the year in the black, nicely in the black, despite having the $15,000 overage in the laboratory expenditure. And I will note that we do still have some earmarks for some of the remaining development funds. So they're just in an encumbered fund to be used as we get contracts for that in place. But on the whole, the year went fine. I am still waiting on one outstanding bill for the authority control maintenance contract. So that I encumbered the entire amount. We'll see when the final bill comes out. I know it's not higher than that. So we'll probably have more left over. And then 2019, so far, the only thing I spent money on is one very small order at Amazon to get stuff started with the consortium collection this year, and deposits for the annual meeting in Hackaway. Although I was in contact with our box vendor yesterday, so I might have an invoice already this afternoon, so we can get more single disc boxes. Finally. We had to switch over payment types so that, so we can actually continue ordering from them. But it's finally happening, more boxes are coming, and I'll be able to actually start shipping them out to everybody in the quantities they need. A couple of other things. The ISLF has indicated that they are going to start charging us a service fee. The state library has agreed to deal with it for now, but it is something we want to keep an eye on, potentially plan for if the state library is not able to do that in the future. And we are also waiting on their next meeting before a resolution can be passed to get us a checking account. So they approved us getting a checking account, but they didn't pass a resolution on it. So they wanted to complete that step before they'll allow us to do that.
Apparently banks won't let you open an account as an organization unless you have a board resolution. Who knew? You all probably knew.
Yeah.
It's in your blood type.
We're resolved, we have money. We want to give it to your bank.
Seems like enough.
And right now we're collecting on the pass-throughs for the library subscription and the RDA toolkit. About halfway through the RDA toolkit and not nearly that far on the library group just yet. And we still have 7 or 8 membership fee checks on the way in. I sent out the notices to everybody we had heard from yesterday, which was due last week. See if we can't get that straightened out. Cataloging committee has not met. They have not appointed a new chair. But the new cataloging templates will be out this week, so help me. I had them all done and converted, and the conversion process ate all the OOAs. So now I have to go back and put those back in. But as soon as that's done, there will be lots and lots of new, shiny, all RDA templates for any original cataloging that anyone has to do. And also the full cataloging series is being taught this week. Thursday is basic, and the full advanced class is going to be taught Friday.
We didn't meet.
No, meeting in April.
We didn't meet.
No.
No, we're meeting in March.
Right. Yeah. Now, on the positive side of things, we do have part of the, about half of the updated manual is out there Mary has been putting in a lot of extra time this week and last week, getting me notes so that I can continue to update that. But all but 2 chapters are updated for 3.2. So unfortunately, 2 chapters will have to be the longest ones, so I haven't had a chance to get those done yet, but they're coming.
We met.
We met.
Finally, we
met.
There you go. That's about all we have.
Yeah. No, we start working with an outline, we start some brainstorming.
Yes, it's gonna be a work in progress. That's gonna take some time.
Progress was made today.
It
Yes.
was.
We got a shared doc, so it can be worked on whenever people have. On the unfinished business front, then, oh, sorry, you're supposed to say that part.
Oh, go ahead. I'm finished. Go ahead.
They're here somewhere. Oh, no, I didn't print them out. Everybody had a chance to see the scholarship applications. What would you like to do with that?
I just need to clarify that we do have the funds if we want to send all 6.
Yes.
I make a motion that we send all 6.
Second.
All those in favor?
Aye.
It's easy.
All right. New business?
Okay, as hopefully you remember, the bylaws allow us to require this committee to evaluate the rates annually for the following year's membership fee rates. The maximum change that can be seen is 5% growth. Anything between 0 and 5 is acceptable, according to policy. So the question is, do you want to increase it? And if so, at what rate? And do you want it rounded or exact? Lots of questions.
I think that we maybe shouldn't do the 5% just for the fact that we're gonna be hit with
Career
courier
service.
service.
Yeah,
That's just my opinion. Maybe go in the middle or something, 2 or 3. So, have an opinion?
Can you explain what the 2019 step column is for?
Step is how much it increases from one tier to the next.
Okay.
Karen, what were you gonna say?
I was gonna go for the full 5% because you guys need the money, but I agree with what Janet said. But as a small library, I'm looking from 2019 to, and I'm on tier 5, to 5%. And that amount of money, the difference is not gonna make or break the library, even if we have an increase in Info Express. And I think if Evergreen needs it, so they can keep doing the things they're doing, I think we should
I just was thinking.
go at least
the-
4%.
The people's perception. That was what I was thinking. I wasn't thinking of the money, I was thinking of perception more than.
Yeah, I have to say I agree with Janet that we're going to have other funding issues from a library's standpoint. So, I don't know that we want to go with 5%.
Can I ask what we did last year? We did
5%.
We did 5.
I can tell you that most of our contracts have built-in 2 to 3% increase in them. So our costs are going to be going up 2 to 3%, regardless of what decision you make.
Yeah, so I was gonna say that I was gonna opt with the 3%. Because our growth quotient was 3. So
There you go.
just thinking that way, that would be, take care of that also.
3% sounds good.
Is there a motion?
Uh,
Or just
Exact or rounded.
Oh, yes,
Yeah.
yes, yes.
Whole dollars or is the change?
Rounded.
Rounded.
Thank you.
Yeah.
It's good to get the option, absolutely.
Okay, so is there a motion?
I move that we increase the membership rates by 3% at and rounded.
I'll second. All those in favor?
Aye.
I've been saying opposed, but it sounds like everybody's saying aye, so.
All right. All right.
I'll second it, I'm sorry.
Vanessa.
Auto void bills.
Okay, this might be fraught with problems. We'll see what happens there. Historically, this has been something that's been up to libraries to decide whether or not they auto-voided lost bills when materials were returned. Problem is, it's a library setting, as directors have changed, support staff have changed, awareness of this setting is not always followed. And we are having more and more issues with libraries not clearing fines after they have materials back, and either then getting the patron getting so frustrated they end up paying, but being angry because they paid for something they have returned, and the library obviously does have back. Or what's caused the most friction of late, search libraries getting cut off after they return materials. And then they're taking the public listservs. We're starting to get quite a black eye out of this. And it's because libraries are not clearing fines. And when I talk to them almost across the board, every library is like, well, I'm supposed to do what? So I'm wondering if you guys would approve this as a consortium setting. If a library still, if they receive a lost item back, they can still bill the patron if the item is damaged. Or if they want to go with a shorter loss term, right now, lost bills become permanent after 5 years. Because that is when the item is deleted from the system. If libraries want to have permanent fines, all they have to do is delete the items soon. But that would help a lot with this immediate issue where, another example, smaller library owns materials, larger libraries, patrons come in after smaller library is closed for the day. Even though the item is lost, it's supposed to be up to the home library to forgive that fine, but they won't be in until tomorrow at the earliest, so we cannot serve the patron in front of you. Turning auto void on, and I'm not talking about for damaged or making any changes there, but turning on auto void for loss and loss processing, as long as the item is returned and accepted back to the library, what I'm asking you to make it a consortium setting.
So let me just break this down so I understand, make sure I understand. So if I have a book that's been out, say, I don't know, 8 months, I return it, it checks it in, it takes all the fines off, and then, or it takes the replacement cost and the processing off, leaves the fines. Okay.
Actually, that's another set of shoes, but I don't think that would be part of
See,
this.
just to get my little dig in, I've been wanting this for 10 years. It's time. Way over time.
So you're gonna make a motion? Is that what you're
I
saying?
will make a motion.
We already have this.
It
Yeah,
would save us
well, I
a
came
step.
from libraries that
if we
had
do
this,
that
and then we
together.
joined Evergreen, we couldn't do that anymore. This is crazy.
Right.
that's a step that we go in and do personally,
Yeah.
like later, so it would save us a step, but.
It's automatic.
Ours is not.
But that's what she's saying, like, that would be able, like, say they return it at Greensburg, like at Vanessa's library, then they're like, well, now I can't do anything until I go back. And so Shelbyville takes care of that book when it gets back to their library.
Yeah. Training is that.
Yeah, but, because now they're stuck, they can't check anything out until it gets back to our library and takes care of it because they return it to Greensburg. But if it auto voids it when it gets checked in, then they're free to.
Right.
And like I say, if it's a situation where someone has, still mangled the book or what have you,
Still charged.
The only thing I want to bring up is just something I remember historically from being on the Patron Services Committee. The reason why not everybody chose to do that is because various libraries had different ideas about whether or not they would accept it after a certain amount of time.
Because they might already replace it.
Yes, yes. That would be the,
and that's
So
where
is
if
that-
they deleted the item, that bill becomes permanent and it can't be checked in. So the auto void does not affect it in that situation.
and they would have to, that's a setting they could do, or is that something they have
It's
to do
not a setting,
individually?
they would need to do that manually. It maybe, and that may be something else we want to review again. When we put the auto delete in, we went long with 5 years. It may be something we want to pull the community and see if we want to tighten that up. Depending on what it is, GRE book for that year, it's
Right.
no good in a couple of years.
Right. Or Game of Thrones, because
Oh,
we
yeah,
replaced it. Yes.
Okay, so we do have a motion on the floor.
Yeah, I'll make it.
He's like, I don't need to hear anymore.
Okay.
I want it.
So do we have a second on that?
I'll second.
Okay. All those in favor? Say
Aye.
Is Winnie. Okay, all right. Transiting video game pilot.
Yes, I have a request from the library that wants to start transiting their video games. This would not be affecting a large subgroup of libraries. There are only 35 libraries that even have video games in the system, and of those, only 16 have 100 or more titles. But this would be an opt-in thing, so libraries can choose whether or not to, if they wanted to just do it with their older materials, perhaps. I could see this one being much more selective than video discs or even music CDs. I went ahead and checked the system, and I think for this one, it makes the most sense to just have any transiting video game be 7-day circulation, since 95% of our video games currently circulate that amount of time. And we can go ahead and use pretty much everything else we have in place for transiting media.
Discussion? Motion?
So we're just deciding whether or not we can do the pilot and people could opt into it. Make a motion if they want.
I'll second.
All those in favor?
I
Okay. Motion carried. R-rated books.
Okay, this request came from Bluefield. They're building a new adult graphic novel collection.
This came from who?
Bluefield. Bluefield, Green County, Eastern Green County, no, not Eastern. That's right, Eastern Green County. Like I say, they are building a new adult graphic novel collection, and they wanted to restrict access to adults only. When I did post this out to the community, I did receive written responses. You guys have those in your packets. Hopefully I had a chance to read those already. So I will turn that over to you for consideration.
I make a motion that we not do this.
I
There's
second
nobody that's
that.
gonna vote.
I second
Let's go.
Okay, is there discussion before I ask for a vote? Okay, is. All those in
No,
favor?
I mean, if you guys want to talk about it, I just.
I think it's too hard.
I know I have no voting power, but I think it's wrong to have R-rated it goes against the grain of
Censorship.
everything. I'm just, of everything that libraries stand for.
So do we know, like?
I mean,
kind of-
basically, they said it all. I mean,
Yeah, there's not
it's,
anymore we can.
I mean, really, it's just, it's
Who's
not,
gonna decide
it's just not.
what's already? in
Is,
there?
so what kind of titles are they wanting to put in this graphic novel collection?
Graphic
Not
ones.
providing
Do not
these
say.
novels. I do know that graphic novels are one of the very few forms of printed materials that do, particularly the ones that come out of Japan, will have a rating system.
Yes, they do.
But
But it's
this,
a public
it's,
library, and it's the parents' job to censor what their children read or don't read.
none of the other books that we have do, and this does make it a very challenging question.
Right.
Because
It does.
at what point does it stop being rated materials and a local decision? And
And if my stepmother came home with that book, it's my fault for letting her go get it, not the librarian's fault.
So, yeah, that brings up, because you're gonna have people that's gonna make everything R-rated.
You have some of those.
Okay, so it sounds like we've had
This- this- it's the
discussion,
slippery slopes.
we've got a first and second. Are we in favor of this?
Aye.
Nay, maybe I should say, is anybody opposed? Yeah.
Say that again.
Okay, I can't
Wait, the
remember.
motion.
It's motion.
So the motion
It's
was
motion.
not to do it.
Motion is not to do it. Those in favor, say aye.
Aye.
Okay, all right, I think the ayes have it. Thank you, now that I said it correctly.
That's what I did.
Cheryl,
All right. Okay, updates, circulation policy to reflect the cardholder must be present to renew privileges.
yeah, this is a question of adding just a couple of words. There was an issue, actually.
There was an issue at my
My
library.
A patron wanted to renew privilege and said that, felt that the policy did not reflect that she needed to be there in person to do that. So,
Yeah,
it's just a
It was
question of adding
implied,
renewal
not
in addition-
explicitly stated in the policy was the issue. Is she an attorney?
Obviously,
She
we
actually
make
read it.
accommodations.
It's
negotiations
awesome.
around it.
I put a review just for
I
that.
was gonna say, we've had the issue where someone called us because they were out of town and they want to access Overdrive or
Right.
Hoopla. And I've just made the choice to extend it for a certain amount of months until they're able to come in and just kind of,
Yes.
spot check the
Well,
information.
I've done that too,
Make
but
sure.
this patron wanted to send all of her ID and everything in with her child
Oh,
to
yeah,
renew her
no.
card because she felt that the policy didn't explicitly state you had to be there in person to renew your card. I mean, yes, there are extenuating circumstances, your card expires and you're on vacation.
Right,
I'll renew it for a week or two, but with a note on her card, but yeah.
I don't have a problem with the extra one. Is that what you want to do? You just want to update?
Yeah,
Yeah.
that line. Yes. I'll make a motion to accept the or renew privilege under the proposed policy.
I second it.
All those in favor?
Aye.
Okay. Code expiration term.
Yeah, this is something we're starting to run into a little bit with acquisitions. 9 months, some adult authors like to announce they have a book coming in 18 months. And their avid readers will show up at the library, request. Some vendors will go ahead and put stuff in up to a year in advance. And if someone has a request, then by the time the book actually arrives, they only have a couple of months, if that, before their hold expires. So I was wondering, if all right, with you guys, if we extended that to a year rather than 9 months, it doesn't actually have any major effect on our current service levels. It just, if someone's waiting online for a long time and they choose not to cancel it, it'll hold a little bit longer.
So this has nothing to do with the holes on our shelves that we.
Right. No, this just means that if a copy becomes available, it can be a little bit longer before they can be targeted.
Is there a motion?
I'll make the motion.
Second?
Second.
All in favor?
Aye.
All right. Okay, bylaws amendment.
All right, last page of your packet, you actually have the language, existing language for the electronic participation allowance. Now, I will note that because of research I did after I already put this on the agenda and announced it to the community, I don't think we can take any action on it today. I'm still waiting on some final legal review from Sylvia. But as you may have noticed when I sent out a frantic email yesterday, we are struggling a little bit to find people who have time that can commit to committees. We really want to make sure that this is an inclusive a process as possible, because we do want members from all over the state to be able to participate on committees. And it can be quite a lot if you are 3 hours each way to attend this meeting. It's a whole day every time. So I would like you to start pondering the possibility of offering 100% video conference meetings. Since we have our own dedicated software, we aren't competing with any other part of the state library. That was one of the reasons I don't think this was ever really a possibility before, because the
Adobe Connect.
webinar equipment was being used for webinars a lot. So since we have our own separate license as a community, we can do video conferences as often as you like. And then transition to fewer required in-person meetings. People still want to meet together and sit in on a session that would be possible. We would not have the in-person requirements for all meetings. Now, part of what goes into this is whether or not we are considered, this committee is considered a public agency or a public agency advisor. And that is what is currently undergoing review at the state library. Because you guys do not directly advise the ILHB, it is a question. Obviously, we'd like to keep things as transparent as possible and not look, like run away from the door or anything. But we have the ability to accommodate up to 100 members for every one of these meetings, if need be. And we could extend our subscription if we need to make it larger than that. So the meetings can still be fully public, both to our patrons if they wish to attend. And it would open up the door for more library staff around the state to be able to participate, not only in this committee, but in the subcommittees as well. I know one of the big things I heard, I was considering when I was looking into this, is I know sometimes it's hard, if you're still at your library, to keep your staff away. Say, I'm in a meeting right now, because I know you're not, you're sitting at your desk. But
I think the first thing, 2 weeks, at least 2 weeks before, that might be like we just decided yesterday to meet, and so Mandy couldn't have participated, or well, maybe with that.
we
But-
have
but-
not observed that particular rule. Thing ever.
Okay, well, I
Um,
just noticed that.
And
Because
it's
sometimes.
straight from open door. So
Yeah.
we have accommodated on one short.
Okay, yeah, okay. Well,
Consistent. But that's the other thing, at this point, we always broadcast our meetings. So we have missed one meeting, no, 2 broadcast meetings since I started. So we have a history of already getting these out to the community as video. The other thing that might help, and I know I've gotten a few complaints about this, is it's not always easy to hear the conversation, depending on how close you are to the mic. Or behind it.
Can the people that are videoing right now tell us how they are hearing? Can you chat in?
You sounded, I hear that.
Keith says he can hear us great.
Good.
Cool.
Good news.
Oh, only okay? Is Pepsi okay?
Oh, yeah,
Yes.
Oh, wow. My cats are fighting in the background.
I'm wearing a headset.
Fair enough, Darcy. Oh, hey, Bob. I didn't know Bob was watching.
Here.
He is, he's watching that too, I promise.
So are there any other, is this something you just don't even want to mess with thinking about? Is it something you want to ponder on? We can talk about it again? Do you want to wait, say, do you want me to stop Sylvia doing the research and say, you know, we're happy with what we are?
I think we should go forward with it if we can.
Okay.
We can get more participation. Fabulous.
Could this be used also, like, if there was a major snowstorm and we were all stuck in our libraries, because you could get there always, but we couldn't travel very far. Maybe it would keep somebody who had bad weather in one part of the state from having to get out in it or miss the meeting entirely, so that would be good.
I will mention, I don't have that part printed out, but our current requirements are that you only have to attend one meeting a year in person. So we have already done something to help alleviate that, but then you still have to have a minimum of 3 committee members in one space for the meeting to be considered allowable and streamable. So it might be something where we can still leverage it, but make it more active video streaming if we decide to stick with the current definition of this group as a public agency advisor.
Anna, can I ask, what do we base the 3 people in one location on?
Open door law. 2 people or 1/3 of the committee, whichever is larger. And in the case of the other committees, it's even more than that. You know, patron services, we have to have 5 people in the room plus at least 3 more participating remotely to even have a meeting. So yeah, if we have really bad weather, we have to cancel. We can't hold a meeting currently.
Right.
I say, I will, if it sounds like you're okay with it, I will continue to move forward with the research side of it and make sure that this is something that we can do allowably. What I did go ahead and start looking at too is if we wanted to do this under, if it is determined that this is not actually a public agency advisory group, then I was looking at the not-for-profit law and their guidelines to see if that would give us some guidance and try to find a happy medium then, because I know we want to maintain the transparency, full transparency we have with open door, which is possible. But be able to maybe leverage more flexibility we have through that code. I want to make sure that whatever we do is sustainable.
Next meeting is April 9th, here. That one.
No, I didn't change that slide.
Okay. It's right here. All right.
And we'll be going to conference right after that, so we'll see a lot of you in April.
Okay,
Right, well,
do we have a motion to adjourn?
I'll make the motion to adjourn.
One second.
Okay, all in favor?
Aye.
All right.
Hey, everyone.
If that's all that was on it.
Supplies for the email.
Thanks, you too.
Would it make a good impression? They don't hire me, it's too late. right?
Yeah, right?
Yeah. Still not sticking, you guys.
That's good.
Okay, let's keep it that way.
It's there for a while. I was forgetting something. I get like every month. from the-